Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. It is a Week 10 edition as Grand Valley 9-0 right now, having defeated Findlay last Saturday night, 28-17 the final. The Lakers with the perfect record, number 1 in the GLIAC, of course, and also within Super Region number 4. I'm Steve Lloyd-Jones along with Matt Mitchell, DJ Foster as well, and DJ, a lot to get to tonight.
A lot of good stuff, Steve. Welcome back, by the way. Yeah, we'll bring in running backs coach Mike Hatcher, former Laker, obviously first year on the coaching staff. We'll bring in Hatch onto this program. Later on, defensive lineman Sonny Haskins will join us. And like you said, we'll talk regional rankings. We'll talk a little look ahead to the playoffs, just a few weeks down the road. And Grand Valley State needs just one win in these next two games to clinch the GLIAC championship.
I know. This is a great time of year because you have so much really that's at stake there for the Lakers to be able to grab opportunities to do that. And, of course, head coach Matt Mitchell will tell us all about it. The GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell gets started right now on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
And welcome back into the GVSU Football Weekly Report. DJ Foster, Steve Lloyd-Jones, and head coach Matt Mitchell here with you. That was the Lakers' first touchdown last Saturday against Findlay in the 28-17 win. Nick Dotson from Bart Williams. Certainly we'll talk about Bart Williams and his effort, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns in the comeback victory. Reminder that tonight's show is being broadcast across the Grand Valley Sports Radio Network. It can also be seen throughout Michigan on Xfinity 900. The show runs several times throughout the weekend, so check your local TV listings. You can also find this episode and all episodes of the GVSU Football Weekly Report on the GVSU Lakers YouTube page. Now it's time to bring in Coach Matt Mitchell of the 9-0 Grand Valley State Lakers. And Mitch, welcome in.
Thanks for being here.
How we doing?
Doing good. Doing really good.
Well, you had a second straight game that you trailed in, which the fact that we even note that is interesting enough because you hadn't in the first 7 games of the year. And it was getting a little, maybe a little tense on the sideline. I don't know for you guys, but you scored 2 late touchdowns in the final 6.5 minutes. Matt Williams with a touchdown catch, Marty Carter with a touchdown run. Some big stops defensively, too. What was the mindset of your team going into that fourth quarter? Because Findlay was staying right there with you, and your defense was kind of playing a little bend but don't break.
Yeah, I think that, the biggest thing is we head into that fourth quarter, we just felt like, we were going to have to throw the ball to win this game. Based on how the rushing attack was going and what Findlay was doing to us, it was really difficult to get Martavius Carter loose in that game. Before his run at the end, I think he only had like 50 yards rushing. We just were having a very difficult time generating, any explosive runs whatsoever with Marty. And so, it's kind of all talked about it as a coaching staff and talked with Bart. Bart wanted the ball, and we wanted to, go out there and just stay really aggressive. And we'd had a couple, sloppy series in the third quarter, even throwing it. And so we just, went out there and just got aggressive. And I think it was a really key drive for Bart. I think he's had a couple of these now the past couple weeks. And he had one kind of at Ferris, even though we had the lead, where he took the football in the fourth quarter and it led our team, and I thought he did a phenomenal job. They were bringing pressure like crazy. They were really, it's part of the reason we were struggling a little bit to run the ball. There was a lot of pressure looks and things, and he stood in there. He took some shots if you're at the game or saw it at all. He got hit. He got hit probably, as most he got hit all season. We've protected him pretty well, and but he kept throwing the football around, and it's nice to have, some of the skill set of the guys that we have outside. Everybody made plays, but obviously Matt Williams was really the matchup. And, when I look back upon these last 2 fourth quarters, I think it's worth noting we've been the better conditioned team as you've been in this fourth quarter stretch. That sometimes you don't notice that during the course of the game as much as you go back and watch the tape. I think a lot of things that we have done in our program and continue to do in the program, showed up in the fourth quarter. I think, our strength and conditioning programs, the way in which we're preparing our athletes, have put guys in great positions in fourth quarter. And I would also say the rotations that we've done. I think we've been very mindful throughout the course of the season to rotate. We're rotating defensive linemen, we're rotating wide receivers, we're rotating backs. And, Findlay gets a ton of credit, but, for the most part, Findlay starters on offense and defense, played the entire game. And I think that you saw towards the end of the game some of their defensive backs who had made some plays maybe earlier on or, not making those plays in the fourth quarter. And the same thing with our defense. I think our defense was fresh. We stuffed the run pretty much the entire second half. And got the pressure when we needed to get the pressure on Reese Gervais. Findlay was a good football team. It's one of those deals. You start looking at records and you can get fooled by records. 8-0 versus 4-4. If you look at Findlay's games, they should have beat Ferris State. Really competitive game with Ohio Dominican. They had moved the ball really well against Ashland. It's kind of bogged down the red zone a little bit. And then they were coming off 2 straight wins against 2 teams. They'd blown Hillsdale out at home. And then they had, beat Tiffin, a 2-loss Tiffin at Tiffin the previous week. So they were playing with, some good players, and the coaches did a good job at Findlay putting those kids in good position. And so it was a hard-fought victory. Again, we knew as a staff and as players coming in that this was a talented group and that they were on an upswing in terms of momentum. They were coming in and fight, and I thought it was just a great game. And I'm really proud of our guys that we made more plays at the end of the stretch in the fourth quarter to get the win.
Yeah, and speaking of making plays, the offense was kind of the fireworks, Marty, with the long run and those scores that you got in the fourth quarter. But defensively, you got it too. Boy, Belcher, a huge sack. Amame with some good pressure. You get the interception late. And your defense, you're talking about conditioning. I remember after the Ohio Dominican game, you were saying, when you got to play 80, 90 snaps, it wears you down. But your guys, as the year goes, seems to be getting stronger.
Yeah, I tell you, this was really a team win, and especially from this standpoint, touching on your point, there in the first quarter, we were struggling stopping their run. They had some explosive runs on us. Had a little bit of issues fitting up a run play, and they were getting the ball out quick. While we were struggling a little bit on defense, I thought our offense did a great job on their openers coming down and scoring, and we were kind of match and serve there in the first quarter. Like, we weren't letting the thing get away from us, even though we weren't playing great defense. And then the script kind of got flipped into the second half. I thought, we struggled a little bit offensively in the third quarter. Our defense just kept coming out and kept getting stops. And that's encouraging, too. When you play good competition, there's going to be ebbs and flows to the game, and you have to have each other's back. I think our offense had our defense's back in the first half. And I thought, as you mentioned, Steve, our defense really stepped up and kept getting key stops in the third and fourth quarter. And we just kept swinging. And we knew at some point, we were hopeful at some point that we're going to kind of break through offensively, and maybe took a little bit longer. But we ended up breaking through offensively. But I got to give the defense a lot of credit. I think the other thing was the field position. It was frustrating for our team, too. In the second half, we couldn't get on the defensive side of the ball that quick 3-and-out that would allow them to punt, and we could start the ball in midfield. Most of our offensive possessions, we were backed up, and didn't. We're fighting, the field a little bit throughout the course of that third quarter, and that's where some mental toughness and some grit comes in that you got to continue to play and fight. And but you're right. Again, our defense only gave up 3 points the entire second half. To hold somebody to 17 points, especially that offense, I still think there's something to be said for that. We had a few holes in the first quarter, but we kept coming defensively and kept sticking with it, and made some adjustments at halftime with our coaches and players that really were key in the third and fourth quarter.
Here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell, this segment brought to you by Cardinal Buses. Go in comfort, go in style, and go green. Go with Cardinal Buses. So, Mitch, you're down 17-14 in the fourth. You mentioned your offense kind of stalled for a couple of quarters there. What did you see on that drive? 5 plays, 74 yards. It took just a minute 49. Obviously, you felt comfortable with Bart throwing the ball. Matt Williams was having a very nice matchup for him to exploit, and you knew Marty was not getting the lanes he's used to. What did you see on that drive to take the lead, give the ball back to Findlay, you get the stop, and then Marty obviously busts the long one at the end?
Yeah, basically, the way Findlay was playing, we knew we had some one-on-one matchups on the outside, and we know that we got to stretch people vertically. That's what Grand Valley football is. We're going to throw the ball down the field. And you have to understand when you throw the ball down the field that, you may are not going to complete 90% of those passes. That's not maybe a high completion percentage, but if you do complete a few of them, they're going to be for some really big chunk plays and chunk gains. And so we just didn't maybe hook up on some outside down the field routes earlier in the third, but we kept staying with it. We felt good about the matchups we had on the outside with our field receiver, our X. We felt good about that matchup, and we're going to continue to do it. And I thought, we eventually hit a couple of those and got out of that hole and created some field position. I think the other thing is we kept the tempo up. We were up on the ball, calling plays pretty quick, and we were continuing to, stay aggressive with our play calls and get the ball down the field. So, yeah, it got to that point like, okay, boys, we got to protect Bart Williams, and Bart, you're going to have to drop back, and we're going to have to throw it down the field. We're going to make some plays because the way they were playing, it wasn't dictating stuff underneath. It was going to have to win over the top, and we knew that, and we did it.
I love at the end where you have the lead late in the game. You're going to run the ball. Everybody knows that because you're protecting the lead, and you got Marty Carter. And Marty busts a big one against a run look.
But I talked about this on Monday. I mean, technically, he probably should have gone down. It was a big deal that, we were struggling to run the ball. But when we got the ball back, we thought, one first down in this game is over. Based on our chart and the number of timeouts they had, we thought, hey, we just get one first down. So we're talking about, hey, get the first down, great ball security, and stay in bounds. And next thing we know, he's loose. He's gone. And there was literally on the headsets with the coaches dead complete silence because this happened to us. Tom clearly pointed this out on Monday. This happened to us a few years ago when Hillsdale scored too quickly. We had opportunity. Like, worst case scenario there, we score. They return the kickoff for touchdown. We put up the hands team, give it up. Like, they could still win. If he would have gone down, like Rand had gone down on the 3 or the 2 yard line, based on the clock and the timeouts, we could have kneeled at that point in time and run the game out, and they would have never had possession of the ball again. So he came back to the bench and he's like, should I have scored there? And we were like, well, not really. He probably should have gone down, but we'll take blame for that. And part of it was we didn't expect him to pop a 53-yard run based on kind of how the flow of the game was going at that point in time.
Especially on the first play.
The first play,
if it's second, third carry, does someone kind of say, it triggers in one of the coaches' heads, hey, if he gets far, just tell him to get down.
We were saying, like, we told the whole entire offense at that point in time. Again, on our charts, we have all these charts, like one first down based on the number of timeouts they have, we can win this game. So we're talking just get one first down, get that first down. Next thing you know, first play, boom, gone. It's a touchdown. So that was, that was definitely one of those deals. As a coach, you're just kind of like, great, we scored, but, this is maybe not exactly the best interest of the football team.
That's right. Well, I think back to the pick on fourth down earlier in the game. Part of me is going, it's a great interception, but if you knock it away, you get better field position.
And even like, Dante Carey is a senior. Great job by him. He picks the ball off. He went down, which was good because, you look at the tape, he could have scored on that play too. He could have returned that back and scored. But the smart play at that point in time for Grand Valley football is to go down.
Well, Lakers win it 28-17. They are 9-0. Hey, up next, we're going to talk with assistant coach Mike Hatcher. Second time he'll be joining us, and great to have him as an addition on your coaching staff and a former player who knows a lot about this rivalry with Saginaw Valley you got this week.
Oh yeah, 100%. We had quite a doozy in 2012 up there, and so we had some guys on the field at that point in time, and he was one of them. So he understands this. He's from the east side of the state, from Dearborn, and there's been a lot of interstate rivalries and a lot of things going on within our league, but this is one that's been very, very relevant since the early 2000s, Saginaw versus Grand Valley.
All right, Mike Hatcher up next as the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell continues after this on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
And welcome back, live from the Main Street Pub here in Allendale as we continue on with the show. Steve Lloyd-Jones along with DJ Foster as the Lakers getting the win there, that on Saturday night over Findlay. Welcoming in right now running backs coach Mike Hatcher with us, our assistant coach interview segment. Great to have you again, Mike. And we want to start you with some memories of Saginaw Valley State, that rivalry. Of course, that's the big one this week, the Battle of the Valleys, the Lakers on the road. Take me back. We'll get to the good memories. Take me back to the rough one, 2012. A strange game as you're at Saginaw. You fall behind by a huge amount at halftime, fight all the way back, take the lead, and they win it right at the horn.
I think that the biggest thing that I remember about that game is being down by being down 35-3 at halftime. Is when we came into the locker room, there was so much poise with the guys, and nobody really ever panicked. I just remember looking at the time, Grimes was starting, Isaiah Grimes was starting quarterback. I just remember looking at him, and he smiled at me. He said, "We're going to be okay." And we went out there in the second half, and we played really hard, and I think we made a lot of plays, and a big part of that was our offense making some plays, and our defense made some key stops too. At the end there, they got us. They had two really good players, Jeff Janis and Jennings, the quarterback. I mean, I can't say enough about those guys. They're two really good football players. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Janis is in the NFL now, but they made some plays at the end, and it still stings a little bit to talk about.
But then, in the conclusion of that,
we get the good news.
We get to talk about, the good side of things. The very next year, your senior year, 2013, not only did you beat Saginaw in the final regular season home game, for whatever reason, the NCAA decided to match you guys up again the very next week, very same place, the second coming, and you, I think it was 40-7 maybe.
Yeah.
The next week as well, so you beat Saginaw 2 weeks in a row. In Lubber Stadium, so that was probably a better memory in your mind. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it left a better taste in my mouth as it was my senior year, and it kind of felt good to go out and beat those guys 2 times in a row. I just remember the first game, it was a lot of back and forth there, probably in the first half, beginning of the third quarter. Then our offense kind of took off, and we kind of started making some stops and things like that, and we got a little bit of energy, and we got a little bit of emotion, and when we never looked back. And second contest, and I think the coaches put together a really good game plan, especially with some of the stuff they tried to do on offense. And we did some things to kind of single out Janis a little bit and try to take him out of the game.
Yeah, because those guys were both still there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't like they were gone.
Exactly. So we tried to take him out of the game, and I think Coach Mitch, Coach Postma, those guys, they did a phenomenal job of kind of eliminating that guy. We did some different things, and beating them 40-7, that's not an easy task. I would still argue that it was supposed to be 40-0.
Okay.
We had them down in there,
yep.
And we tried to make a check, and half of our defense didn't get it, and they scored on the seam route. Never forget it. Yeah. Because I wanted to goose egg.
Wanted to shut up.
Exactly. But it was a good win, and it was a good team win. Obviously, our offense was clicking on all cylinders, and our defense did a pretty good job getting some stops. And like I said before, our coaching staff had a great game plan.
Grand Valley's running backs coach Mike Hatcher, our guest tonight on the show, former Laker DB. And talk about this rivalry a little bit. You were a former player. Coach Mitchell has commented on it, former coaches before him as well. Guys hit a little harder, maybe a little more trash talk. It's nothing dirty, but it's just more physical and intense. Yeah. Give us more of a flavor from a player perspective.
I think as a player, you kind of go in with a mindset that this game means something a little bit more. As a coach, you definitely try to tell them, hey, it's another game, and we try to do our best. But as a player, you try to go out there and you try to compete as hard as you possibly can, even harder than you do previous weeks. And I think that the rivalry creates that, and you kind of develop a little bit of a hatred for those guys over there, just from the simple fact that it's been a rivalry for so long. But after you're done and you run into some of those guys, it's all fun still. But when you're on the field in between the lines and things like that, it gets kind of crazy. And I think that the rivalry, it helps both schools.
Well, it's a strong rivalry, obviously, a lot of emotion. Mike, you're a former player. How do you help your guys now as a coach? You want to have that good emotion. You want to be fired up. You're going to be on the road, hostile environment, but you can't let that emotion take control of you either. Right. So what are you telling your guys to help keep things in check and not, stay undisciplined?
I basically just try to tell them to play hard through the whistle. I mean, after the whistle, it's no extracurriculars. Be smart while you're out there. There's going to be some trash talk and some things like that. Just continue to be smart, and anything that you can say can be shown by using your pads and going out there and trying to play to the best of your abilities. But for the most part, I just try to remind those guys that in between the play, you want to play hard and you want to get after them. After the play is done, you get your eyes back to the sideline. You try to get the next play, and that's the way you hurt them the worst.
Hatch, one more thing before we let you go. We wanted to get your take on it. So you're winning 21-17 last week, about 2 minutes left.
Yep.
Got the ball back after a big stop, a lot of emotion, a lot of things going on, and you call the run play for Marty.
Yep.
And he takes off. Yeah. And we've seen him do it before, so it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
You guys are just wanting 4 or 5 yards. Just keep stay in bounds, keep the clock going. And he goes for 53. What is going through your mind? You heard Coach Mitchell say that the headsets were silent. What's going through your mind at that point? Are you thinking, oh, man, we should yell at him to get down? Because you're up in the – are you up in the booth?
No, I'm down,
You're down the field. Okay, so you can't
right there.
You can try and yell to him. I'm sure he won't hear you. But what's going through your mind at that point? That's your guy.
It's kind of like Coach Mitch said. Everything just kind of went silent. And for me, I definitely, in that scenario, you do want him to go down. In that scenario, you do want him to go down. But it's kind of, while you're in the moment like that, I'm kind of thinking like, man, all right, he gets through the first level. I'm like, all right, he has a guy right here. He beats that guy. Then he gets to the third level. And I'm like, okay, this guy's going to get him down. Then I'm like, wow, he's gone. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it's unfamiliar to me, but like in that moment, you're kind of in a tough place because you want to yell, go down, but at the same time, it's not your normal instinct and it's not his normal instinct. So I think that it was a unique situation. And we tried to kind of explain to him on the bench like what should have happened. Mm-hmm. And the next time you get in that scenario for future situations, but with Marty, we'll see if that takes. So
well, it's like he's punished for scoring a 53-yard touchdown run. Like, you can't bench the guy.
No.
But yeah, you understand both sides of the thinking. This segment was presented by Earhart Construction, the official construction company of the Grand Valley Sports Network. Mike Hatcher, thanks so much for joining us. Again, this will be your first Battle of the Valleys as a coach. Enjoy it. We wish you the best of luck this Saturday against Saginaw Valley State.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. That's Mike Hatcher here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. We'll bring Coach Mitchell back in after this commercial break. We will talk the Saginaw Valley State Cardinals. It's all here on the Grand Valley Sports Network, and it's presented by GVSUTeamShop.com.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
And welcome back to the GVSU Football Weekly Report. DJ Foster, Steve Lloyd-Jones, and head coach Matt Mitchell. We're with you here until the top of the hour, and then right at 7 o'clock will be the GVSU Basketball Bash. You can head over to the Fieldhouse Arena. It's their version of Midnight Madness. It'll include contests with the teams and players, interaction with the fans in attendance, and the first 500 students will receive free T-shirts. So coming out to the Fieldhouse Arena, that's tonight at 7 o'clock, right at when this show ends, the GVSU Basketball Bash. It's all presented by Enclave. You can also listen to the Lakers this season on ESPN 96.1 FM, your new home for Grand Valley State men's basketball. It's time to look ahead to Saginaw Valley State this Saturday, 3 p.m. start, the Battle of the Valleys. And Mitch, Saginaw Valley State has won 3 of their last 4 games. They're 5-3, and I don't know that they still have any playoff aspirations, but they could certainly spoil some of our hopes this weekend. What's the initial feeling about Battle of the Valleys and getting ready for Saginaw Valley State?
Well, it's always going to be an intense rivalry. It's going to be a very, very physical rivalry. I mean, you don't have to look too far than 2015. I think at the point in time they'd maybe I think won one game heading into our game, and we were sitting in a good position, and you find yourself in really a dogfight and end up winning that thing 24-17. And so I remember standing on the sideline of that game, and it was physical. There was a lot of guys running around. It was a very, very tight contest, but a physical contest. So that's what we're anticipating heading over there. That's a program that has a lot of pride, a lot of tradition. It's been a playoff team. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Everybody was around kind of for that 2013. We played them the last regular season game, and we had to win that to get in the playoffs. Then we had them coming back with the first round, and some really good players on that field back there. So it's, we understand. There's both coaches have been at the helm now. I think I've been 7, and Coach Collins has been there 8. We understand the rivalry. A lot of kids on both rosters from the state of Michigan that both institutions have recruited, and a lot of guys know each other. So, we have a lot of rivals. This is definitely one of them, and I think it really came to relevance probably in those early 2000s when you look at some of those games that we had with the Brian Kelly-led teams against the Randy Oury-led teams. There was some intense competition there in both the regular season and in the playoffs, the 2002, 2003, and that spilled over when I first got here too. Some really intense regular season games and playoff games, 05, 06, and some of that stuff. So it's been, feels like it's always been at the end of the year here recently, and both teams building up. Like I said, I think their staff has done a good job. This is they're coming off 2 wins 2 years ago, 1 win the previous year. They've won 5 games this year. Played some people really, really tight. So we know the type of game it's going to be.
To get a flavor of what this year's team has, Mitch, break them down a little bit. Some Laker fans are used to, the more of an open throwing attack that Saginaw's had in the past. More run-oriented now, but still a good, strong defense as usual.
Yeah, I think this is a very defensive-centric team. I think they do a really good job on the defensive side of the ball. They've definitely led them. I think these are a couple of the best safeties, pair of safeties that there are in the conference. Matt McCoy is a senior, makes a lot of plays. He was the player last year that had the pick 6 on us that really swung the game. Last year we were driving, and he returned it for a touchdown. And also Dylan Dixon, Dylan's brother, played for us here at Grand Valley State, Dana. And so, those are, really 2 really good safeties. They've got a big, physical defensive line. I think they do a good job of mixing up fronts and movements and blitzes and pressures and things, and they rotate a lot of guys in, at the front 7 positions that way. So they're led by their defense. Offensively, they suffered an injury at the quarterback position, and so Ryan Conklin has taken over here the last few games. And, as you mentioned, when you look at the statistics and you see it on tape, they like to run the ball. They have a variety of guys that will run the football. They're prone to use, 4 or 5 backs. They've had a different leading rusher in multiple games this year. And then, you start loading up the box and trying to, take away the run. They're going to play action and do some stuff to try to, beat you over the top. So, big offensive line, a downhill run game, trying to win games a lot of ways that people in the Midwest try to win games in November. Play great defense, control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, run the ball, don't turn the thing over, play great special teams, and, try to grind out wins. They've been able to do that this year.
This is the opponent breakdown brought to you by Kent Equipment, solutions that turn work into play. We're talking about Grand Valley State at Saginaw Valley State this Saturday, 3 p.m. start from University Center. And Mitch, I saw the other day that they've had 3 or 4 different guys named GLIAC Special Teams Player of the Week. Now, is that mean their entire unit is good, or do those guys just have special games? What do you see from the special teams looking at it? Because obviously that's a third of the game.
No doubt. Their kickoff return team is really good. They do a really good job. They basically went up to Tech, and everybody knows based on the Ashland score last year, they beat Tech at Tech, and the way they beat Tech at Tech was a kickoff return for a touchdown and won that game 17-14. So when you look at the year, they've been really explosive on the kickoff return game. The punt return thing, they show a lot of variety of different looks, and then they've had some good units on coverage. I think they do a really good job with their kickoff team, trying to get field position for their defense and set up field position for their defense. So, yeah, if I just pick one of the 6 units on their special teams, their kickoff return is very explosive and is dangerous. And, we struggle with that. That was one thing we didn't really talk about last segment. I mean, that was a bad start to a football game just because, we kick off and they return one out to the 50, and we're starting our opening drive, putting our defense in a bad spot. And so we've had to juggle some guys around in terms of depth on the kickoff team, but we've got to get that right. It's got to be an extension of our defense and be a little bit better than it was last week.
Lakers on the road at Saginaw Valley State Saturday, 3 o'clock kick, as DJ mentioned. That'll be across the network lines. That coverage beginning at 2 o'clock for you Saturday afternoon. Up next, keys to the game for Grand Valley at Saginaw Valley. This is the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
We're back live inside the Main Street Pub here in Allendale. The show presented by GVSUTeamShop.com. Authentic Laker apparel for every game. With head coach Matt Mitchell, I'm Steve Lloyd-Jones with DJ Foster. And talking about the matchup this week on the road at Saginaw Valley State as the Lakers there in the Battle of the Valleys. Keys to the game right now. It's time for those keys to the game presented by Fox Motors, only the best. Coach, you're going on the road here against, as we've laid it out, good team running the football and playing defense, excellent special teams. What keys do you see for victory?
Well, I think that something that's been really critical the past 2 games, we've not turned the ball over on the offensive side of the ball. We've been on the plus side of the turnover margin. And I told our guys yesterday after practice, when you look at the league right now, as you start getting further in the conference, statistics do start to matter when you have more of a sample size. We're number 1 in the league right now in passes intercepted. We're number 1 in the league in fumbles lost. We've only lost 4 fumbles, through 9 games. So we're number 1 in both of those categories, and that's been, a really big component of why we've gotten off to a 9-0 start has been the turnover thing. Red zone defense, we're number 1 in the league in red zone defense, and our offense is number 1 in the conference in red zone offense. So we're winning at the red zone on both sides. And then third down, we're number 1 in the GLIAC in third down conversion percentage defense, and we're number 3 actually in the league in converting third downs offensively. So the stats that really matter to me are, the turnovers and the situational football, which we've talked about on the show previously. We're doing well, and I don't think there's any coincidence that we're also leading the league in wins based on, some of those statistics. So it'll come down to some of those same things that always, turnovers. We've done a really good job with our ball security. And Bart has played extremely well and been aggressive with the football, but has not been sloppy or stupid with the football. He's done a really good job at the quarterback position. That's been key the past couple weeks. We have to continue to do that, and try to force some turnovers. With the style of play we've had the past couple weeks, it's been harder to do that until we got that lead and we opened it up, and it allowed us to get those pass rush, and the ball was in the air more. These teams have done a good job of really running the ball and grinding the clock, and short, quick throws have been a little bit tougher to get some of those turnovers. So when you're facing that style of play, it's even more imperative on the offensive side of the ball that you don't turn the ball over and give them an extra possession. So you go on the road and you play Saginaw Valley State. I think turnovers are going to be a really key statistic, and we got to get off the field on third down, and we have to convert offensively on third down, and we've got to stay out there offensively and get some of those stops. I think when you certainly when you look on paper and take a look at their team, this is going to be a little bit harder with them based on the strength of their offenses, their run game, and you're dealing with a new quarterback. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to generate coming back from a 2, 3, 4 score deal. We've got to make sure that style of game is working towards our favor, and I don't know when that could potentially happen. But we've got to try to make sure we do a good job getting off the field third down defensively, getting the ball back to our offense, and keep trying to stay aggressive on the offensive side of the ball.
And Mitch, one thing that's not a statistic that you can't really measure anyway is emotions. And it's Battle of the Valleys week. There's a lot of things going on across campus, trying to raise money. The schools compete in that regard too. do you have a different talk with the guys during the Saginaw week? Obviously, Ferris State has kind of joined in as a major rival as well, so that the emotions are a little bit different in that game. Do you have a different kind of pregame talk with play smart, like Hatcher said, no extracurriculars, after the whistle and stuff like that?
Well, first of all, I hope we've done a good job January, February, March, April, May of having the type of program where that's not going to happen. I think we've done a pretty good job besides the ODU debacle there in that one possession. We had 2 personal fouls. We've done a really good job with a lot of those things. And I've said this before. I don't want to overstress a certain rivalry because I feel like then we would take emphasis away from some other games on our schedule. The fact of the matter is when you play, Grand Valley and you're aiming to try to win championships, every game is critical. Every game is a big game. This is a big game. This is a big game, and I don't think it's a big game because it's Saginaw Valley. It's a big game because it's the 10th game on our schedule, and we have an opportunity here to clinch the outright GLIAC championship, and there's a lot of things in play, and we have that opportunity. Obviously, our players don't live in a vacuum. They're not idiots. They understand this rivalry with this institution. And so I don't know that I need to hype that up or bring that even more to the forefront. I think that is always an underlying current that is always there, and it's even probably more my benefit to focus on the things that are going to win the game as opposed to the emotion of the rivalry and those type of things. So personal fouls, pre-snap, post-snap penalties are going to hurt Grand Valley football. They're not going to help us win the game. And I think our guys understand that message. And, I'd expect them not to be any problems. And I think both these programs over the course of time, there's been emotion and there's been physical play, and it's been, very competitive, but I don't feel like it's ever gotten to a point where it's been an embarrassment for, either side of the ball. I don't think we play those brands of football when we go out there.
Those are the Fox Motors keys to the game as we talk Grand Valley State and Saginaw Valley State coming up on Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. start from University Center, Michigan. When we come back, we're going to bring in defensive lineman Sonny Haskins on our player interview. It's a GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell. We're live from the Main Street Pub in Allendale, and you're listening to the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
Back inside the Main Street Pub in Allendale. Back with head coach Matt Mitchell. I'm Steve Lloyd-Jones as we bring in defensive lineman Sonny Haskins with us right now. Time for our player interview brought to you by Country Dairy, the official milk of GVSU Athletics. Sonny, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Great to have you as we turn things over to your coach here.
Appreciate it, Steve. We're joined by Sonny Haskins, pride of Gary, Indiana, senior defensive lineman. This is great having you on. I think a lot of people see as, a defensive lineman, but you've got a really interesting story before we even talk about how you got to Grand Valley and how, that went down. Probably not a lot of people know. Growing up, had some speech issues, a big stuttering problem. I want you to talk a little bit about that and how you overcame that and some of the adversity maybe you faced a little bit early on in life.
Pretty much, yeah. As a kid, I had a stuttering problem, and it was real bad. I remember one day in like the 6th grade, I had a substitute teacher, and he was talking about an assignment. I went up to him, and I was stuttering real bad. I couldn't really get my words out, and he told me I wouldn't go to college or it pretty much be anything talking like that. And then ever since then, that just pushed me to go to college and graduate from college like I did, and play sports and just be a pretty good student athlete, I feel, in my community. So, yeah, so whoever that person was,
He's in your rearview mirror.
Yeah.
He's in your rearview mirror.
He was a substitute teacher, so.
Good for you. So talk a little bit about getting to Grand Valley and walking on and that process and, just starting out here.
Probably the hardest thing I ever did in my life. Coming from high school, I was a decent ball player. I went to a small high school in Gary, Indiana, which you guys know is a basketball town. We got Brandon Dawson, guys like that come out of Gary, Indiana. There's not a lot of focus on football, but I'm like barely 6 foot. So I couldn't play basketball unless I wanted to dribble the ball, and I couldn't dribble that well. So I started playing football, and I just pretty much pushed myself to be as good as I could. And my senior year, I went to a bunch of camps, Ball State camp. I started getting calls from small schools, Division II schools, and actually I committed to a small school down in Rensselaer, Indiana, St. Joseph's College. That didn't work out, so I was like, well, my GPA is a 3.8. I'm just going to go to Grand Valley. It was a beautiful campus. I loved it here. When I came on my academic visit, I was like, I'm just going to go to school. And then I came to a couple games, and I figured I might as well try it. Long, hard road to where I am now. But it worked out somehow, so thank God for that.
Yeah, Sonny walked on after his freshman year, and just kind of a guy, no offense, kept showing up. Just kept showing up and grinding away and started to catch our attention and slowly developed a role. And I think the role in the football team, some of it was driven by, being on the interior defensive line, but probably the bigger role was your leadership in the locker room and the respect a lot of your teammates had for you based on the fact that you weren't playing a lot, but the effort and the attitude and a lot of the intangibles that you brought to the table. And so talk about that, what you think your role is on this team, maybe what it was and what you view your role as right now.
Like you said, I walked on. So my redshirt freshman year was just shield punt. I played when we were up big. Sophomore year is more of the same. My junior year is when I really started to play a little bit when Coach Whitlow came around, and he really worked with me and he really pushed me. Like, I really thank Coach Whitlow for what he did. He really just continued to push me and kept driving me. And then, we played teams like Wayne State who were very run heavy, teams like that, and that's when I played the most, and that's when I could help the team out the most. So I pretty much just, when my number's called, I go out there and play as hard as I can. Stay in the A-gap, run my stunts. I just play hard.
Academically, you've knocked it out of the ballpark here at Grand Valley State. Tell a little bit about what you've done up to this point in terms of majors and degrees and what you're currently pursuing.
Okay. I graduated last December with my bachelor's of science in biomedical sciences. Growing up, I told my parents I'm going to be a dentist. I want to work with people's teeth. I like teeth. I got about halfway through my biomedical science, and I was like, I don't want to be a dentist. So I just finished up. I worked a couple lab jobs, worked out at Perigo all summer doing lab stuff. And then my Dr. Richard Lord actually talked to me. He said, so what you going to do after you're done? Like, I really don't know. And then he told me that I'll probably be a good administrator. So right now, I'm pursuing my master's in public health administrations. That's what I plan on doing. I want to be CEO one day of some type of hospital system, but that's going to be down the road, but I got to keep working towards that too. So right now, I'm about halfway through my master's degree. Hopefully after my senior year playing football, I can go get some type of internship downtown Grand Rapids and work my way through there.
Best part about these player interviews, you see the 99, but you don't hear a lot of stuff going into it. So I appreciate everything you've done up to this point, and pleasure having you on. Let's go get Saginaw.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonny. Sonny Haskins there with us. Up next, a look around the conference and the region as well. This is the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
Marty Carter right there with the final touchdown Saturday night. The Lakers winning at 28-17 over Findlay, but all attention now focused on Saginaw Valley State. Welcome back, everybody. This is the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. I'm Steve Lloyd-Jones with Coach and DJ Foster back with us. And let's look around the GLIAC and the region here briefly, DJ, and the latest rankings. And there's a lot at stake here for Grand Valley this week.
There we go. There's certainly a lot at stake, and there was certainly a lot of movement last week. In the top 10 of the regional rankings, Grand Valley was the only team that did not move up or down. Obviously, we couldn't go up, being the number one team in the region, but a lot of movement down below. Some Ashland lost, Wayne State lost, so those teams dropped down. So a lot of shuffling around. Top 7 teams make the playoffs in a couple of weeks. Ashland is a 7 seed, Ferris is an 8 seed, Wayne State is a 10 seed. So as of right now, Ferris and Wayne State are the outside looking in. But as of right now, you're the only undefeated team. You're sitting number 1. So as of this airing, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you start with us, so we don't have to watch the scoreboard. That's a unique thing. Only the scoreboard, we have to manage our own scoreboard. And this game coming up is critical for a few reasons. I think, first of all, clinching the outright GLIAC championship, is important to us. And getting that back here in Allendale, and then just continuing to stay undefeated in our region, and put yourself in a position, if you're fortunate enough to win on Saturday against Saginaw Valley, put yourself in a position that when you head to Wayne, you're playing for a bye and home field advantage. And obviously we did a lot of traveling last year on the road in the playoffs, and our team handled that extremely well. But there's nothing like playing at Lubbers and being home. So that's how it relates to us. I think the GLIAC, there's still a lot of movement in the GLIAC. When you take a look at this schedule, Ashland is playing Walsh at home this weekend, and they have to go to Ohio Dominican for the final season. Ohio Dominican, as we kind of knew, as they were front-loaded with their schedule and had some really tough games, including with us, and they've won a bunch now, and they're really hot, and you have to go down to Ohio Dominican. That won't be easy. Ferris State finishes up with at Hillsdale. Hillsdale's putting up some points, and they had a big win last week in Northern Michigan. They're still struggling a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, but they've kind of hit the rhythm offensively. And then you got Wayne State. Wayne State has a couple tough matchups left as you look at their schedule too. They've got to play us in the last regular season of the game, and they're still fighting for their life down there. So, with the rest of the region, we take a lesser region, the 2 Lone Star schools do not play. Looking at their schedules, that'll be interesting to see how that finishes out. Southwest Baptist, their strength of schedule is going to decrease here the last couple weeks. The 2 teams at Southwest Baptist have to play don't have very good records. Truman State's got a couple games coming up in the GLVC that'll be tough. McKendree, I think, is in 3rd place in that league, and I believe they play McKendree either this week or next week, and that's a team that's right towards the top of the GLVC conference standing. So, as this usually is, DJ and Steve, you guys have been around this thing with these regional rankings. There's always a lot of movement, and a lot of things happen. I almost feel sometimes like releasing these things after the 8th week. I think it generates, segments on these shows and fan activity, but it can also create a little bit of a, disservice too, because people start to wonder why is this happening, what's happening,
Sure.
And there's going to, in my opinion, there might be some more movement too. Just when you look at Southwest and their strength of schedule and who these other teams playing, I think some things. I don't believe this is going to stay static here the next couple of weeks, in my opinion.
Mitch, we won't hold you to it. We'll just have you speculate a little bit. Right now, 7 teams get in. Right now, Ashland is 7, Ferris is 8. If those teams win out, they're both at 7 and 2. If they both finish out 9 and 2, does that mean Ashland edges Ferris for the final playoff spot, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think, first of all, when you look at strength of schedules, Ferris State has the big edge in terms of strength of schedule over Ashland, but you also have to go back to head-to-head competition. Ashland went up to Ferris State University and beat Ferris at Ferris, and so I'm sure that's playing into a little bit of the equation here when you look at that. And, I haven't quite run the numbers, and looked at those teams because I'm more concerned about my team. But as I mentioned, Ashland has Walsh and ODU, and Ferris has got Hillsdale and Saginaw Valley State. So it'd be interesting in terms of strength of schedule because they don't do projected at this point in time. They just look at who you've played up at that point in time. And the strength of schedule numbers will continue to change each week based on wins and losses and a lot of things that are happening not only at a conference level but a regional level also.
with so many teams having 2 losses within the regional rankings, Super Region 4, can a 3-loss team get in, do you think?
I think it's going to be very difficult for a 3-loss team to get in. And I'd mentioned this almost at the beginning of the season. Like, I didn't tell our team this, but I knew, like, probably in pretty good shape if you're undefeated, obviously, or a 1-loss. When you start getting to 2 losses, now you have to start looking around the landscape of the region and see what's going on. And your destiny gets a little bit out of your control and starts to look at some other things. Obviously, we had an advantage last year because we were one of the top teams in the nation with our strength of schedule. But you start getting to that 2-loss paradigm, and you're looking at all these 2-loss schools. Like right there's 6 teams that have 2 losses in our region. A lot of those things in terms of strength of schedule and in-region matchups and head-to-head competition, that's when a lot of that stuff starts to take a into effect.
That's really good stuff. So we're just going to keep it here till the end of the show. It's the team landscape segment presented by Modern Office, brings spaces to life. And I think you mentioned it so far, Mitch, but obviously a couple of big matchups this week. Wayne State is at Ohio Dominican, so Wayne State certainly does not have it easy these last couple of weeks. And I think the other big one obviously was Grand Valley State, Saginaw Valley State, but Ferris State, Hillsdale as well. So what do you see with either of those 2 games? Noon starts on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the Wayne State at Ohio Dominican, that would be really interesting. Ohio Dominican has a good run defense, and that's what Wayne State hangs their hat on. I think that's probably where Wayne went up to Ferris last week, and against Ferris's run defense is really strong. They're one of the top schools in our GLIAC in terms of run defense, and Wayne just couldn't generate enough running game to overcome Ferris. So that's a battle of strengths. The Wayne State offense and running attack versus Ohio Dominican rush defense. I think that'd be critical. I would also say the Russell kid, the quarterback for Ohio Dominican, you look at what he's doing statistically, he's on fire right now. I mean, he's throwing the ball around, a lot of touchdowns, not turning the ball over. And Grant Russell, we played him. He played a great game against us, just threw the 4 picks, but he has eliminated some of those turnovers and is really playing extremely well. And then Hillsdale Ferris, Hillsdale, anybody takes Hillsdale lightly is foolish. Keith Otterbein does a great job. Their offense is rolling. It's a ball control offense, a very meticulous offense. I'm sure the game plan will be to try to keep Reggie Bell and Ferris's offense off the field and try to, do what they did to us a little bit and, try there. So that's one of those deals that, if Hillsdale is able to control the clock and get a lead in the 4th quarter, advantage Hillsdale. And at the same time, if Hillsdale gets down, it's difficult just based on the nature of their offense and what they do. But those are 2 noon games, in our league, and I think those are going to be, great football games. Our conference is good. Our conference is good. There's a couple teams that are maybe not so hot, but there's a lot of teams here in at the top tiers that are good. You look at last week, you got a 2-win Michigan Tech team takes it to Ashland, who was ranked number 7 in the nation. Ashland went up there and they beat them. And, that just shows you, I think, the strength of the GLIAC that could happen. That happened just tells you that these are good teams, and you have to be on point every single week. It's no different for us. We can't have down weeks, and there's no margin for error the rest of the way out. We have to be on point with everything we do. Before
we wrap up, we'd like to thank one of our fine sponsors, Allendale. True Value. Behind every project is a true value. And Mitch, on a little bit of a lighter note, with the Battle of the Valleys and everything, you sent out a Twitter poll earlier this week on which one of your players, I believe you sent it out, correct?
Yeah, I did. I got asked by the Student Senate and we'd done this the past couple of years to have a player do a pie in the face and try to raise money for it. So we did some team fundraising, and then I put it up for the fans on the Twitter poll. I put 4 players up there. Matt Williams, the Cubs fan, he won over the top, and he got it. So he got the pie in the face, and he got his revenge last night. And today there was a fly the W flag out of practice, and he had a bet with our quarterback coach Matt Vitsom, had to wear a Cubs shirt at practice, and I mean. I told everybody, let Williams have his moment. It's been 108 years in the making, so let him soak this thing up here for the next 3 hours, and let's put this thing to bed and move on to the next thing. But Matt Williams from Geneva, Illinois, he's a lifelong Cubs fan, and he was ecstatic and everything. So I'm glad he got a pie in the face based on all the over-the-top Cubs paraphernalia we've had in our building here this past week.
Unbelievable game, though, last night.
I didn't stay up. I'm not going to be the first to tell you. I was out.
Unfortunately, I did.
Yeah.
Indians fan here.
Yeah, I was going to say, for DJ, just a little extra painful.
Terrell Dorsey and I we're hurting. We're trying to recuperate.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, well, let's go get them, Coach. Battle of the Valleys. That's an intense road matchup. That is, even though, maybe not the most talented Cardinals team you've faced over the years, they're going to give it to you.
100%. We know what type of game we're going to get. I mean, this is going to be a game where it's going to be really physical, as I've mentioned. I probably use that word a lot, but they've got some bigger body kids, and they're going to get after us on both sides of the ball. And so we've got to make sure we travel extremely well throughout the next 2 days. We'll get over to Saginaw, have good meetings, and I'm glad some of our road games we've had here have been in the state of Michigan to finish the season up. I think that's one thing that was very unique about our schedule. We finished with Hillsdale, Saginaw, and Wayne State. I think that's great for our fans. I think it's great for the people in the state of Michigan to have some of those GLIAC teams, these strong GLIAC rivalries kind of down the stretch, not having us travel to Ohio or something else like that. We're playing all of our games in Michigan against good teams.
That's right. That's Saturday at 3, coverage beginning at 2. That'll do it for us tonight. Our thanks to assistant coach Mike Hatcher and player Sonny Haskins for joining us this evening. For head coach Matt Mitchell and DJ Foster, I'm Steve Lloyd-Jones. Thanks for listening to the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell on the Grand Valley Sports Network. Have a great night, everybody.